today we have about 160 babies and children and young adults in our hospital beds, 160 families that are, trying to keep their children healthy and are trying to partner to keep their family healthy. The ability for them to be able to walk just steps away from those doors, lay their head down, get a meal, have a conversation with other families that are experiencing that same really challenging time, I just think is a gem. It's just a gift that we have to keep building on. Because some of our families are there a few days and some are there on average 10 days, but like you said, some of our critical care families are there for months. Mm-hmm. And so it's their ability to cope as a family, it's their children, other children's ability to still be a part of that family unit and to learn still and be able to access things like schooling and teachers and books and games and playtime while their brother or sister is in a hospital bed. So it's all of those things that I think we take for granted of like what's normal. I think Ronald McDonald House just does such a good job of reinfusing that norm. But then let's think about how do we keep our families healthy, mm-hmm. right? How do we keep our families healthy? Not just physically healthy, which I think has always been our priority, but how do we keep them mentally healthy, mm-hmm. right? I love the idea of how do they get out and exercise? Mm-hmm. How do they take care of themselves? Do a little bit of, maybe some meditation, maybe some mindfulness, recenter themselves so that they can be that rock that their children so desperately need right now. So just so important. I think when I think about the statistics of how many nights our families have been able to lay their heads down, I think we're over 10,000 now, right? 10,000 nights I think we all take for granted that we just go home and put our head down and go to bed. But for a family whose child's in a hospital, whose home might be, miles away, or even maybe not even that far away, but too far, right, to leave your kid, that they had a place to lay their head and rest and recuperate and be able to come back the next day to again help their children get healthy. It's just a special gem.
It's interesting. So yesterday I was on TV with a family and loved hearing their story because they are CDH diagnosis and, of course got kind of that news and they're from out of state and they found the care they needed with Johns Hopkins All Children's. They found the home they needed with Ronald McDonald House. And I think it was such a highlight of our partnership and how we help these families. And they had only been with us for about a week. And they spoke to our mission as if it was ingrained in their soul, mm-hmm. Both of our missions. And thought that was amazing that our organizations are making such an impact on them that even just after a short time, they can say so many wonderful words.
Yeah, it's got to be the hardest decision to make, right? Our CDH families are traveling from all across the country. Mm-hmm. And they have a choice of, where they're going to put their trust to take care of their really critical child. And I think knowing that they have a home to land on when they get here is part of that choice because it just takes away that part of the worry, right? So they're able to come, leave their family, move across the country. They know they're going to have to spend weeks and months with us. And just the ability to know they have a home away from home, I think just takes that part of the equation out of it. So it's sometimes it's the simple things we all take for granted that are really monumental.
And I think this new world of remote work is going to allow for many of our families, not all of them, but the agility to really seek that best care in a new way. So before I think sometimes families were split because one person had to stay at home and continue working. Whereas, talking with Dad, he's like, actually, most of the time I can work remote and I can just fly back for a few days and then come back and be my wife's side and prepare for that child coming. So that's really exciting, I think. Our whole mission is to keep families close and how that will allow them to do that. And then I think one of that next calling is how do we ensure that families who maybe don't have that luxury, can get that access to care too, and how do we get them here and provide them a home so they can receive great services as well. A big thing to answer, but looking at all of those things and all of that access and how do we explore those things in the future, but it's very exciting.
So can you all talk to about the partnership, because the central house is located inside the hospital, kind of the impact of that and the benefit of that? Because it's a little bit different than the other facilities we have, the other houses in Tampa Bay.
You want to start? You want me to start?
Yeah, I can hit on that just a little bit. I mean, I think we kind of brushed on it before, but it is hard. Well, I will say we try very hard to make our patient rooms as accommodating as we can for our families. There is no doubt it is a very disruptive environment. So lots of noise, lots of interruptions, lots of alarms. But even with all of that, parents just don't want to be far away from their kids. And so I think one of the greatest benefits of the house being located within the hospital is that they don't have to be very far. And they like that, right? They love the convenience of feeling like they're still on the same walls, they're still just a moment away, and I think they find a lot of comfort in it.
Yeah, I think there's so many special things about all of our houses. I think the central house is a lot of parents with premature babies, and they bond over that experience, often late at night, and they get to share when their baby has eaten for the first time and how much they're eating, how many ounces, how they're doing. And I think that community is so supportive. The other thing I really love about our central house is just its ability to serve a different group of families. So as part of our partnership, opening that house, it was really to serve any family that had a sick child in the hospital. And so families that are not staying with us overnight, of course, can come down to the central house. They can partake in meals, they can rest there, they can do laundry. And during COVID, our staff did their laundry for them, which was really lovely. And that's just a service that seems small, but is so monumental. So many of those families who are staying bedside and enjoying the comforts of the hospital, but still need those extra amenities. I always say, for any of you that do laundry, even if you only live an hour away, if you had to drive an hour, do 3 hours of laundry and come back, you would be away from your child for 5 hours. That's a long time. To be, all the mothers are going, So just those little things seem small, but they add up in a big way.
Yeah.
And oftentimes I see our staff, handing cups of coffees to parents who are tired, and sending snacks with siblings who maybe have a long journey home, and just all of those little pieces of the puzzle to help with the package of family-centered care that we're trying to take care of that whole family as a partnership.
Talking about the central house, I think I understood that we had a program called Day Use. Is that coming back?
Yes, so we were doing that a la carte services during COVID, and day use is coming back actually in the next couple of weeks, where families will be more inside the house again. So just what Ed's talking about is the services we just talked about through COVID. We were doing them more out the door since we were limiting kind of exposure inside the house. But within the next few weeks, more families will be back inside the house for those cups of coffee instead of receiving them from the front door. So it's very exciting. We're all
It's very special.
Yeah, it's so nice because, you want to step away and get a cup of coffee sometimes. It's just, a matter of kind of changing your environment, and it's just a great place that our families can just go to, different than the cafeteria, different than, the places that feel like a hospital. It feels like home. And I think what you mentioned was so important. They run into each other, and they have those shared stories and those shared experiences that kind of just builds their strength.
So as we're talking about kind of welcoming more families through day use and that kind of thing, are we, we're welcoming more volunteers and meal groups. Can we talk about that a little bit more?
Absolutely. So we're grateful that the pandemic has finally, at least for now, kind of in a lull, so that we can offer more services in person. So we have continued to offer services throughout, and just done it in a different way through hotels and a la carte. But now that the rates are low, our volunteers are coming back, our meal groups are coming back. which is wonderful because although it seems nice to get restaurant food every night of the week, no matter how hard we try, it is not the same as a volunteer group coming. I know your group comes and cooks many times, and you were one of the first to come back when we had a lull earlier in the pandemic and cook for our families, so thank you for that. But it's a great experience, I think. Do you have anything to share about what it's like to serve families at the meal group?
I think it's easy to get a group of people who want to come together and make a meal for everybody. We did do this during the pandemic where we really weren't able to interact with everybody because they came and got their food and then had to go back up to their rooms because of the pandemic. But we've done this at other times where we've brought more people with us and prepared the meal right there on site and then sat down with the families as they ate, and we ate with them, and we had the opportunity to hear their stories and just to interact and be part of everything. And it's just really good to know. It's really good to know that you'd rather us come and make food rather than pick it up from a restaurant and bring more restaurant food.
Someone once told me that it's the community's house, and I think that's true in so many ways. I mean, the number of people who touch the house every single day, month, year is just phenomenal, from our regular volunteers who come in and work a shift at the volunteer desk, to our hospital team that comes through and helps us, to our meal groups who come and serve food, our community groups that come and put down mulch. It's just so many people do that. And then our donors, right? I mean, talk about all the different ways that donors give and support our mission and how they interact with our mission, and it's really amazing. So I don't think it would be the house it is without that huge extended community family, right? So I think for our families, cooking that meal is really special, right? It feels really good that someone wants to help you.
Any other questions?
How do families hear about Ronald McDonald House? Just in general.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a family who needs us might find out about us in different ways. So one is through the hospital social workers, and I think that's really our primary referral. So obviously, as a great partner to us, the social workers at Johns Hopkins All Children's are very in tune with what the families need right from the get-go. They obviously see when a family from near or far is stressed, needs resources, and so they refer them over to the Ronald McDonald House. But sometimes families find us on their own, and they reach out for outpatient appointments as well, or the fact that they're coming. And then some communities, such as the CDH community, they talk to each other. There's a whole network, and I think the beauty is oftentimes when a new family walks in the door, there is another family that is in some phase of their journey ready to greet them, and they've already talked via social media and gotten to know each other. So all kinds of ways. But any family who has a child that's receiving critical medical treatment can stay at the Ronald McDonald House.
Is there a distance that they have to be away from their homes in order to stay at Ronald McDonald House?
Yeah, so to stay overnight, we generally say out of the city, but it really varies. Again, we want to make sure everyone has access to their child's care. So sometimes there are very critical sensitivities that we might have a family who lives closer that will stay with us, transportation and other needs that, so we don't have a hard line on that. We try to serve the family where they are and where they need us. But most of the time, our more local families will use our day use services instead of staying overnight. Yeah, that's a great question.
Any other final questions? I think the last one I'll throw out there is, of course, there's an amazing partnership we have with the hospital. And so how do some of the hospitals, let's say, policies or insights, how does that impact the work that we do at Ronald McDonald House? If one of you guys can speak to that.
So many ways.
Well, I mean, I'll just say I think the one that has come up most often, most recent, is everything related to COVID and the pandemic, right? So much of how we had to adjust our care and our family's access to care, we had to do in partnership with Ronald McDonald House. You couldn't do it alone. And so I think that was a great example of, again, how do we meet the families where they are? How do we know that we have these restrictions, these rules, these safeguards we have to put in place, but still how do we take care of the family?
Yeah, I think often we're moving forward together, whether it's a new medical treatment that you guys are working on, a new doctor that's coming in, keeping our family safe, talking with infection control as we've done. We're very integrated. We pick up the phone, we talk, we call, and we ensure that our families are getting everything they need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this coffee and conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Lisa and Melissa, for all your insights and feedback this morning. And hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.